Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Pink Nest podcast. Today, I'm joined by Maiju, a live music executive, writer, and advisor, and she has nearly 20 years of experience shaping Finland's most iconic festivals and cultural spaces. Welcome.
Hey, very nice to join you. It's a pleasure, huge pleasure.
Thank you so much. Really excited for this one. Let's just dive in. Let's not waste any time.
Yeah.
Childhood. I always start with childhood because I'm really of an opinion that it shapes our personality really a lot. And I'm curious, what was Maiju as a child? What were you, like a child? And what was the early experiences that shaped your, current experiences as well?
Well, as a child, I think I had a very vibrant imagination, and I was very into music. And I also I I remember this one incident which I think shaped me as a leader and as an executive. It was this arts and crafts class, like when I was very little, and we knitted some mittens or something, and I think I did like the perfect mittens, and then I didn't get the best grade. I was that kind of child, and I asked that what was like lacking, like what could I do better, and the teacher said that you were a bit slow, and I kind of left wondering like why I wouldn't have been so slow if I wouldn't help others with their mittens. And that was kind of the core experience that I've been leaning on to. It's a bit funny story, but something that um, kind of has stuck with me that, okay, I finished, but I helped others and kind of a bit suffered from it.
So do you think that there was anything besides this experience in your childhood or maybe in teenage years that hinted at the career you're in now, or the way that you just hold space for others? I'm sure that there were some hints.
I think the interest in music in general was the thing. I think I always was kind of moving towards more traditional profession, maybe like a teacher or something more coherent. But then when it became time to after high school to think what was the next step, I applied to study musicology, and that's where it kind of took off. It was an accident, but I wanted to get into uni, and I think the door with music, it was the kind of easiest one for me.
And how did you start in the festival in the live music industry? Was it really intentional? Was that what you wanted to do? I guess you did, like you've said, or was it more
Yeah,
unexpected?
I think the festival business was a bit unexpected. I started as a volunteer, like many of us have started, and I think it was something that we did when we were studying. Like people were volunteering here and there, and at that time, I think the live music business was an easier choice because that was the time when labels started having difficulties because of piratism issues and Pirate Bay and so on. And live was just kind of emerging and started growing. So it was kind of a good timing to hop on.
But you started in the backstage, right? Those were your first experiences within the festival industry.
Yes, I started as a production assistant at Pori Jazz Festival, which was like the biggest jazz music festival and still actually is the biggest jazz music festival in Finland. And I think it was kind of a deep dive into the festival world, I would say. And during that time, one of the only festivals that had like huge international headliners as well in
Well,
Finland.
I always say that the events industry is so specific and it is in a way also so challenging that I think that you have this aha moment very soon in your career, I would say, whether you belong there or you don't. And I think that if you have a feeling you will struggle, it's never going to really be your home, isn't it? Do you remember when for you this was this aha moment?
I think I've had several of these. Maybe it relates to certain points at my career that, wow, I've really made it, and wow, this team's works perfectly, and we were able to like uh, do this huge headline performance, and it went well, and we were the first team in Finland to do this. I think there were several of these kind of moments. I don't remember any specific kind of moment, but I think it has a lot to do with the team performing well and the team being happy. And of course, as a team leader, it's a joy to see the team functioning well and enjoying their company, and of course having a laugh with the artists and so on. So
Yeah, it's important bit. You've really worked with some of the biggest artists out there, like Alicia Keys, Frank Ocean, Lordi. What have these moments taught you about true leadership under pressure? We know that artists, the bigger the artist, usually the bigger the problems or challenges. Well, sometimes not. Sometimes it's not the case, but still, I think that if you are in a leadership position, it is challenging in a way.
yeah, it is, and I always joked around that I've survived Kanye West and Frank Ocean and a storm that hit to the festival area, but only 2 of these happened during same year. But I have to quote my colleague. He said that when we do the prep well, only surprises remain. And I think this has a lot of like wisdom in it, because we need to have structure for the prep and advancing, and if we have good procedures there that people know what they are doing, people are confident on that this is going to work well, and the artist gets that same feeling as well, then I think we have established mutual trust with the artist group and with the people. Of course, some touring groups are just hectic, and you try your best with it, but if it's like a normal kind of conversation and normal procedures. And of course we try to I've always tried to like lead that we do the ones that are clear, we process them, and then we have the most chaotic ones left if there are any. But of course consistency and I think transparency are keys here.
Yeah. Transparency towards the artist, but also I would say towards your crew, right?
Yeah,
so they know what to expect.
Yeah. And when I started, for example, in Finland, we didn't have any, not like any, but some like food or some brands were unavailable, because well, it was a different
I'm familiar
time.
with that.
Yeah. And certain kind of tech you just don't have in the Nordics. In Finland, we are an island and we have to import a lot of stuff. So those kind of conversations we used to have quite a lot during my early years. And of course, during the later years, because it became so expensive. But I think how to communicate, that is the key in those things.
Yeah, to be just to give it a little bit of a background to our listeners, how it usually looks like is you get on a rider from an artist or a group, and there are certain things there which can be out of reach, as you've said.
Yeah.
Maybe you just don't have this type of vodka, or maybe you don't have, I don't know, this type of guitar available, or whatever it is. And it is challenging. I mean, we never had anybody walk out of it, of the festival, because we couldn't supply. But there are things that we could not supply because they just simply didn't exist on the market. So this is just a little bit of a context to our listeners, what we are talking about. And it is challenging. It's not, it still happens today, even with the production. Some things are just not available or available in this kind of scope or in this kind of size. So sometimes they need to trim down, not because they wanted to, but just because it's not available for them to perform on whatever they want to do. So, yeah. Can be challenging.
The context is really, really good. And it's not that the artist group is mean or something. I think in those riders that people that were crazy, I think those days are gone. like really, really gone. But I think it's about that people are in a different environment, touring long time. They just want their usual stuff, which is completely like understandable.
Yeah, it's true. We've known each other for quite a while, and in our circles, you are known as somebody leading with kindness and with fairness. What does ethical leadership look like in environments like events, which can be chaotic, demanding, and emotional? Besides transparency and what you've mentioned, is there something else that you would like to point out?
I think leading with example and doing with the right thing is not always the pleasant thing, and I think it's important to make a difference if you're looking for being popular or being like a leader that has respect. They are two different things, but can look a bit similar. And of course, I think it's important to communicate your leadership values, because then if you do not act according to your values, the team should be able to call you out for them.
It's a really important point. I agree with you. You've been acting as a co-director of She Said So Finland. What progress and ongoing challenges do you see for women in and underrepresented people in the live music scene? We know that there are many.
I think there are a lot of challenges. Of course, the world is slowly changing, and we keep on noticing these things and problems and barriers a lot more, and there are help to cope with these issues. But I think still the male-dominated field has a lot of barriers. We need more allyship. We need more people to that are power players or in positions that hold power. It doesn't mean that you have to be like an executive director. It can be that you are in a permanent position to a freelancer or whatever. And we need these people to make a difference and act upon it. Of course, the high, like the management and the high roles, of course, they pave the way, but there are other roles as well who are able to make a difference, and it shouldn't be on the shoulders of the activists only. And of course, in a male-dominated field, there are a lot of studies that there is a lot of competition, a lot of strong and even abusive language, and even sometimes violence. And these things I think should be addressed. And for me personally, starting from the backstage settings, it has always been a bit hard because I was never one of the guys, and some of the behaviors that I saw would not be acceptable nowadays. And when I started, it was kind of business as usual or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think
it changes slowly, right?
Yes.
Well, I think we still have a long way to go, but I also think that organizations like She Said So and others, now we in the UK or other networks who are particularly about underrepresented communities and women in the industry are paving a way somehow. But I do also, I mean, we would of course invite everybody to join and check it out. I think that there is a lot of benefits also, and also a lot of things that you can learn from your peers in the industry as well. It's not just activism. There is also a lot of support and a lot of learning as well, I would say, in these organizations.
I think so too. And I think, well, this year at Eurosonic, somebody said to me that even crooks should do diversity because it's good business. And even though it's a kind of a very edgy statement, it holds a lot of truth in it, because if we kind of keep shutting the door and not holding it open, we are losing a lot of valuable business. And then we keep on wrapping ourselves around these problems instead of being equals and creating more vibrant industry. But yeah, I agree that She Said So has a vital role to play. And in Finland, for example, we launched in the autumn of 24, and it has been a huge pleasure of like growing the community and working with industry players. Of course, our industry is very small, but we have been welcomed very well, and people want to include She Said So in many initiatives or industry conferences or so on. And I think that is the right way to do things.
Yeah, and it's also a sign that these things are being taken seriously. So I think this is a good point. By your opinion, what kind of emotional labor do women often end up carrying in a festival and event settings? Because we know it's different from male, for sure. And what can organizations do to better support them?
I think there is a lot of emotional labor. Just well, what I talked about before, that the male-dominated field can be a bit rougher. A lot of competition, a lot of abusive language, a lot of these things. And then I think women often have to like work as some sort of buffers or secretaries or middlemen or women in these kind of games or situations, and it can be really stressful, and sometimes women, I think, cope better in these stressful situations, or are warmer and do not, for example, shout or use that kind of abusive language.
Yeah. And you're working at the moment at our festival, which is recognized for its cross-disciplinary boundary-breaking programming, which is quite different from other festivals, I would say. And why does breaking form matter in the future of culture? It is important.
It is important, and our festival is a small event, and I think it relies heavily on classical music and jazz and contemporary. And especially in Finland, that has a heavy background in classical music, it's important to introduce other ways of kind of to listen to classical and absorb classical music. It has a lot of barriers still, and it's seen as difficult and seen for like something that old people only consume or something like that, and very expensive, and that you have to dress up in a certain way, and
which is not bad.
Yeah, and
dressing up can be nice.
Yeah, dressing up can be nice, but it shouldn't be like the barrier that you're
of
like,
course,
I have this and this, I can go. But it's very important to kind of mix and match different genres and give the artists the space to create something totally new, which the festival often is about.
And I think it also brings the contemporary and classical music closer to the younger audience, because they can see that, oh, well, we actually don't have to dress up and pay a lot of money to see this music, which can be pretty cool. So I think it's also a great way to get closer to the younger audience.
I think so too. And if the audience isn't like mixing, then the audience is very well. Some forms of culture can even die if the audience we cannot introduce it to a new audience. So it's of course critical issue.
You're also working as an advisor for the Arts Promotion Center in Finland. What shifts do you believe the festival sector urgently needs to make? You can list one or two, whatever you like, but something really urgent that you see on day-to-day business, for example.
I think it's urgent that we have funding for smaller events as well. In Finland, for example, we have like 400 to 500 festivals a year, which is crazy because we are for 5.6 million people. So it means
it's really
that
a lot. It's a big number, yeah.
Yeah, but it means that we have like these huge events, only about 10, these 30 to 50,000 capacity events. And a lot of events are small, and we have to make sure that they survive in this area where conglomerates tend to rule and buy, and the business is booming. But if we do not secure funding or possibilities for the smaller ones, we lose the opportunities for the workers to grow, the artists to grow. Everyone has to start somewhere. You cannot be headliner overnight or work with headliners overnight.
Of course, yeah. People really need to understand that if the smaller events and smaller festivals will die, it's just not viable, because we will not have anybody to invite to the festival in 5 years. There will just not be new bands coming up.
Yes, and I think this is happening. It happens with venues and a lot of other players as well in the game. But I think it's important that the whole ecosystem of live music stays viable. We need the huge headliners, but we also need the smaller
Absolutely.
arena.
And it's not specific to Finland. I think the whole music sector is like this. I think also, for example, in the UK, the grassroots movement is really, I mean, now it started to move, but I think it was really going towards the collapse, which is tragedy in a way. People just don't understand how important these grassroots communities and art centers and clubs and everything else is actually.
I think so too. And these grassroots movements are so important because they introduce new audiences, but also new artists, and they keep the prices like lower, and people are able to come, people are able to experience. It's so important.
Well, you're also a book author. In English, it's called At the Backstage, and it really fills the gap in the industry knowledge. What inspired you to write it, and what wisdom do you hope new event professionals will take from it?
Well, this actually goes back a little bit to my university times. I was doing my master's thesis on artist liaison's work, and I couldn't find any references about it, except these drunken memoirs that people had written on tour. And I was like, okay, my job doesn't apparently exist in the academic world, and this is a bit weird. And then COVID hit years later, and during that time, I was laid off for 2 summers, and I had the time to write. And even though there was like 8 years between these events, nobody had written about artist liaison's work, at least in Finnish, and I had still trouble finding resources in English or Swedish or German. Yeah, I basically wrote what I do in it, and I wanted to describe the roles of artist liaison or artist production organization and what people are doing. And I interviewed people, artists and people working at the backstage for it. And I kind of opened up the processes and the values that would be important in the backstage setting. And I hope it will serve the professionals and upcoming professionals especially well. And it has been used in unis a lot in Finland, and I'm hoping to translate it in English and adapt it to the English language as well. But I think it's important that we have like nonfiction books about our work, not just memoirs. They of course have a lot of value, but in order to be like more and more professional field, a growing field, we need these exemplary books.
Of course. I think it's quite unimaginable that none such manuals exist, or at least something that if somebody wants to work in this profession would just take in hands and just be able to read or get some knowledge out of. It is interesting, isn't it? But particularly if you take into considerations, festivals exist since forever. So for quite a long time.
And there are some books about like technical production, but not like, and I was thinking maybe it is the male dominated field or the non-permanent positions that people are freelancing, and then it's considered like a freelance job. But I was in a permanent job leading a big team, so of course I had the power to maybe think otherwise, and my financials were about secure at that time, so I was able to write and contribute.
Mm, I definitely hope it gets translated to English soon. I would love to read it.
Let's make that
um,
happen somehow.
yeah, absolutely. We're coming to the end. It went really fast. And I have just one last question for you. So, after nearly 20 years in live music, what truth about leadership, creativity, or humanity do you wish more people understood?
Um, I wish that people would spend more time like reflecting on their values and how important they are in everyday life. And it's not like values are not like set in stone. I often say that when my leadership value is kindness, it doesn't mean that I'm a doormat for anybody. It just means that I want to respect people and communicate clearly, because clear is kind. But it helps a lot. It has helped me a lot in my career, that when I know what I kind of stand for, it's easier for me to decide if something is right or if something is wrong, or if I can agree with this or not. It's not always easy, but it helps uh, like it is a messy industry. It has a lot of hassle. Has a lot of noise. But if you know who you are and what you stand for, it's easy to navigate. Easier to navigate, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. I think it was a really, really insightful interview, and I think a lot of people will find it really meaningful and insightful too. Thank you.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for having me. It was a tremendous pleasure.
Thank you.